Folks, I'm Chuck Clay, and I think today we're going to uncover a diabolically clever scheme both in the assassination and the cover-up to the assassination of President John Kennedy in 1963. Now, if you're watching this report, no doubt you've watched a lot of other very excellent reports on the assassination. There's some great research out there. Some of it you can buy, some of it you can't. Today I'm going to offer you real evidence and show you that the actual truth is hidden in plain view. It's in the Zapruder film, and we're going to examine that very carefully in just a few minutes. First, I want to take a second to tell you that I'm not a PhD or a forensic expert, but I have been playing with 8mm film and video for quite a long time, and I'm a fairly decent observer. I think that one of the reasons why this cover-up has been perpetrated so long, and we really don't know, we can't see it, is because we're really not looking for it. Our minds and our eyes have been led cleverly in a very different direction, and I'll explain how that's happened. If you'll recall, when President Kennedy was murdered, the first word out of Walter Cronkite's mouth, the most trusted man in America, was that the president had been shot. And this was echoed by news anchors all across the country. He has been shot. And then it came down that he has been shot with a rifle. And they held up a picture of a rifle and offered evidence that he was shot with a rifle. So that's the way it's been happening. I think lots of times that when you get polarized and looking for one thing, you can't see or consider that something else quite possibly has happened. For the last 50 years, the witch hunt has been for rifles, and there were rifles. There were several sets of rifles from different locations that I've been made aware of through some of the other research, and that is obvious. He was hit from several different directions. But I think what I'm going to show you, like I say, is hidden in plain view in the Zapruder film, but we have to look at it in a different direction. Now, if you're an old fart like me, you remember where you were and what you were doing when you heard this information. And I think it's, the most massive form of trauma-based mind control this country has ever known, possibly with the exception of 9/11. That's a different story. But for now, the hunt for guns has polarized this entire investigation for the last 50 years. And we're going to look at something different because, like I told you, the truth is more often hidden. But we can't see it because we're not looking for it. Now I'm going to introduce you to a different form of device, a killing device that you probably don't know about, or maybe you do. You haven't heard about, but we're going to get into it pretty soon. Now I took a look at this back in 1995 and then again in 2005, and as more and more information became available on the internet, it added more to my inquiry about what exactly happened. Now, I mentioned that we're going to look at the film, and you've probably heard possibly that the film has been altered. I now believe that it has been altered, but what I'm going to show you, I believe has not. I believe the alterations in the film possibly have covered up other anomalies, such as a lot of people said that the limo actually stopped. That's not shown in the film, but there were splices in the film. Also, the excellent Much More film, if you find that on the internet and study the Much More film, you can actually see the brake lights on the limo come on. And that would have been in the position partially blocked by the sign where Zapruder was. So the limo coming out from behind the sign, there's still some doubt or whatever about what caused the limo to stop, speed up, slow down, whatever it did. Now, luckily, what I'm going to show you has not been altered. It's vague and fade in some films, but if you look at all of them, it will still be there independent of what I am going to show you, because I recorded this back in 1995, when possibly it hasn't been manipulated too much, but it was to that point. Now, I doubt that Clint Hill knew what was going on when he ran up to the back of the limo and tried to take care of Mrs. Kennedy as she was trying to climb out of the limo. I doubt if he actually knew what was happening, because I think probably some of these, certainly this whole scheme was compartmentalized for those that really needed to know. But as you will see in the video, I'm pretty sure the driver knew what was happening, as well as Roy Kellerman, who was the head of the Secret Service, riding in the right front seat. So we're going to get right to the video. I'm going to get into this. I'm going to show you this and see what you think about this.
Now, at the end of this video, you will certainly conclude that President Kennedy was killed by a device mounted inside the limousine and fired at him from point-blank range. The murder weapon was, of course, hidden. It was mounted in the seat upholstery in the seat ahead of President Kennedy, the seat in which John Connally was sitting. And it was fired by the driver, and he's plainly seen in the film doing that. And, of course, his name was Secret Service Agent William Greer.
The weapon was very similar to an extremely sawed-off shotgun. The blast was produced by what is known as a shaped charge in a special mounting. A shaped charge is a specially configured explosive device which produces a focused explosion. That is, an explosion which goes only in one direction, instead of going in all directions like a stick of dynamite. A shaped charge is what enables, for instance, a bazooka to blast a Sherman tank out of action. Shaped charges come in all varied sizes, including some small enough to be hidden easily in an automobile along with the firing instrument. An advantage of the shaped charge is that it would not produce a bullet or buckshot which could be found and cause questions. The only problem would be the noise. Such a bang would tend to attract the attention of others in the car. I believe the killers knew that Jackie Kennedy would be too distraught to attend such details, as the confusion levels would be incredible. But that left John Connally riding in the seat ahead of the president. The sound of the explosion could be expected to attract attention even if it was muffled and partially lost in the confusion of gunshots from snipers. The possibility existed that John Connally alone might be able to detect that some sort of device had been fired just behind him and to his side inside the limo. Multiple snipers were firing at the motorcade for several different reasons. First, they were to create an ambush environment so that the murder blast would not be recognized for what it was. Second, they were to shoot the president and Governor Connally just as insurance against any possible malfunction of the explosive device. Once it is recognized that the blast came from within the car from a position of firing slightly upward into Kennedy's face, most other forced explanations cease to be necessary. The bazooka-like blast very naturally threw him violently backward and inflicted the massive head wound that killed him and threw debris all over the rear deck of the limo.
In the Zapruder film, let's go back and slow this thing down and look at it. There's quite a bit to look at now. And I've got control of the machine, and we're just kind of looking frame by frame to see what we can see. As we move along forward here, the first thing that we're going to run into coming up here, and I'll show it to you. You saw it, but you didn't think too much about it, was a splice. This is a splice in the film where they have taken the film apart, beveled the edges, and glued the film back together. As the limo rolls forward, we are stopped at frame 313. Now this is interesting. As we can see here in frame 313, an explosion has occurred just out of thin air. Now as we move the video forward, they come up and match up frame 313 with their computer animation, and then in a second here release it. Now I've stopped it. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back up. We've come forward about 3 frames. I'm going to go back to frame 313. Now we've stopped on 313. I'm going to advance the videotape 1 frame to 314. Now if we look carefully, we can see what we're looking for. I'm going to show you. Okay, let's You see that little bright mark right there? Okay, now let me back up the film. I'm going to go backwards now. I'll expand the circle so you can see inside of it. We go forward, it's there. We continue to go forward into the next frame, it's gone. Backing up, there it is. And there's the major explosion that hit President Kennedy in the face. There's the force of the explosion, and there's the afterfire right there, coming out of this shaped charge. Continuing on, next frame it's gone. Here's frame 313 where they stopped us. Here's the next one where we can see it. See this little red plume? It's gone in the next frame. Okay. Now we'll also notice that when the shots were coming from the outside, Jackie was protecting the president. She was in the car hovering over, trying to protect. As soon as this thing goes off from inside the car, she's no longer interested in staying in the car. She appears to want to get out of it. Now also in the front seat, let me back this up a little bit. The seat right in front of the president, Governor Connolly, we're moving forward now. Governor Connolly all of a sudden goes forward. He evidently felt this, the explosion in the back of the seat.
A sharp blow, like somebody walked up behind me and hit me with a closed fist. Felt a sharp blow, like somebody walked up behind me and hit me with a closed fist.
Okay, that gives us a description from Governor Connolly about what he felt when that device went off in the back of the seat. So we're going to back up the video just a little bit and play this sequence one more time for you. Keep your eye on Governor Connolly there in the middle of the round circle as we see the film progress.
A sharp blow.
Bam. Okay, one more time.
A sharp blow.
A sharp blow as they both collapse into the seat. One more time, we'll look at Governor Connolly as he gets the sharp blow. The explosive device goes off now. He lurches forward into his wife's lap. Okay, from the top, the president is fine, smiling, waving at people. They disappear behind the sign, come out the other side. They're both in distress now. Keep your eye on the driver of the car. I'll encircle him. Keep your eye on the driver. Okay, once again. Turns around, looks at the president, fires the device. They all four lurch forward once again. Fires the device. One more time. Kind of got to rock the film back and forth to see the whole thing in sequence. So we back it up and we let it go forward. It's very clear that the driver turns around, fires the device, and then drives forward. He turns around and looks at him twice, once right here, looks forward, turns around again, fires the device, and now he goes on forward. Okay, pay particular attention now as we go through a little back and forth here for a second or two. At the moment of blast, the positions, how they change of all the occupants in the car. The president is thrown backwards and the other four occupants seem to go forward. So as we rock the film back and forth, as the blast occurs, you can see this happening right in front of your eyes. Okay, in this frame we show the relative seating positions of the president, Governor Connolly, and the driver. Barely a half a second later, that relative angle has changed dramatically between the president and Governor Connolly and the driver. They've been separated by the blast that came out of the seat. Okay, so what do we have? Now we've seen the explosive fire come out of the shaped charge mounted in the back of the seat. We've seen the president's head get thrown violently backward. We've seen Governor Connolly violently being thrown forward, as well as his wife, as well as the driver and the passenger in the front seat of the car. Here are 4 more fast sequences of the smoking gun. Watch within the little white circle. Frame 314, the smoking gun. And there you have it.
Now, having seen that, it would be my hopes that professional researchers could take this to the next level, and perhaps after 50 years we will finally be presented with the total and complete truth. Now, I did want to take a second to explain to you how this has happened, how this has gone so far and has not been discovered, because we're told that every frame of the film has been analyzed. Well, it probably was frame by frame. But as you can tell, we've got to look at this in its totality. Now, one reason that we haven't been looking for an explosive device, a shaped charge, is A, we didn't know about it, and 2, we were looking for guns. For 50 years, we've been looking for guns. So if you're looking for one thing, it's hard to see something else. And for example, if my wife sends me back to find a red tube of lipstick on her dresser, I go back there and I look around and I can't find a red tube of lipstick. And I tell her, I says, honey, there's no red tube of lipstick back there. And so she says, I'll go find it. So she comes back with a green tube of lipstick. She says, here it is. I says, no, you sent me after a red tube. And the green tube was laying there. I was looking for a red tube and I didn't see the green tube. My eyes didn't register it on my brain. Because when she sent me back there, I had an image in my brain of what I was supposed to look for. And if I didn't see anything that didn't match that image, I didn't see it. My brain didn't see it. My eyes did probably registered, but I didn't see it. So we've been looking for guns for 50 years. And why could or should we imagine something else? Because we have been told it was guns. So for this reason, this cover-up has been perpetrated for 50 years, and hopefully now some new light will have been shed on this subject and others can take this to the next level. Thank you for watching.